Hello everyone. So here's how I want to do this. I don't want my transition to totally take over my channel, so I'm going to try to do like one update video a month, and it's also going to have a bunch of like trans-related content in it, so that it's not just the whole channel. Maybe it'll be 2 or 3 videos sometimes, some months, but like this month is going to be 2 because I did coming out, which, you know, definitely counts. But yeah, so this is going to be an update video. So actually the first thing I want to talk about is the response that I've gotten to my coming out video, which has been phenomenal. I have gotten no negative reactions. Well, there was one dislike, but I mean, it's YouTube. And, you know, the actual comments, people talking to me about it, I've had coworkers talk to me about this video. You know, it's been really, really fantastic, and everyone has been so supportive and so... yeah, I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of overwhelming. You know, people are accepting me and understanding me in a way that I only very recently began to. And it's been just unbelievable. I am so glad that I finally did this. I'm so glad that I'm able to talk about this and share my experiences with everyone, and that it's been just great. You know, I had one friend tell me that they shared this video with a bunch of their friends who are transphobic. And the interesting thing that came out of that discussion is that those people did not understand that this was a struggle for us, that this was something we didn't want to face, we didn't want to deal with this. And I can kind of understand that from the outside looking in. Like, if you have only an external perspective, why wouldn't you think that someone is just doing this for fun, or doing this whatever, for a fetish or something? And like, I kind of understand where someone can get to that point if you really don't understand it and don't talk to people like me and others like me who have experienced this personally. You know, as I said in my coming out video, no one wants to be trans, you know, and in the case of trans women in particular, like, it's rough. Like, we know we're getting into a worse life. There's a lot of male privilege out there that we are giving up. We lose our pockets, for one thing, which... it's like the one thing I miss. No, but seriously, there's a lot of things that are, like, we get paid less, you know? There's a lot of disadvantages, there's a lot of sexism, there's a lot of, like, threats to our existence just being a woman, let alone a trans woman, who, that's a whole other can of problems. Like, there's safety issues involved here, and there really shouldn't be, but that is the society that we are living in, and I'm fighting to make it better, but I'm one person, I'm sorry. But that actually loosely ties into something I do want to talk a little bit more about, which is gatekeeping within the trans community. You know, there's this perception that if you're not on hormones and don't want surgeries and things like that, that you're not a valid trans person, and that's just nonsense. To be honest, I'm envious of people whose dysphoria is not severe enough where they actually can get away with not doing that. It's a scary thing. Like, hormones are scary, messing with the fundamental ways in which your body works and the ways in which people perceive you and all of that. It's scary. And like surgery, it's terrifying. All of it is terrifying. And that doesn't even begin to address people in the non-binary section of the flag, which we need to remember is a part of the flag. This isn't just like to separate male, female, female, male. Like, this is the non-binary and intersex section that we need to actually care about. You know, it's a thing. We need to stop treating each other like you won't be happy unless you do this. That's not your decision. That's that person's personal journey and experience. It's between them and their doctor, and really the doctor's kind of just the enabler. I also want to talk about some do's and don'ts for when someone comes out to you as trans, and this is not actually based on anything that just happened in reaction to this coming out video. This was sort of like my own experiences coming out to my coworkers and my friends and peers and things like that. And it's just some weird stuff that I'm like, I never expected to experience this, so I kinda guess I need to tell people this. So, you know, since we just wrapped up talking about surgeries, I guess that's the first one. You know, it's a different story coming from a cis person, and especially one who really has no experience dealing with trans people, but like, I've had a few friends say to me, like, oh, are you gonna get the surgery? I'm not an idiot. First of all, I know what surgery you're talking about, but actually you don't. There's a plethora of different surgeries you could be talking about. Most of what that is asking about, are you going to chop off your man parts? And first of all, that is not the procedure. It's not just a guy there with a meat cleaver just No, that's not how it works. And that perception is actually dangerous. There's a subset of trans people that get really desperate and mutilate their genitals. The thought has occurred to me to do that. Like, it's a problem, okay? It's a sensitive topic. You don't need to have that kind of surgery to be a woman. That's just not the case. The criteria for are you a woman is literally, do you feel like a woman? Yes, then you are a woman. Don't gatekeep yourself. Everyone else is going to do that enough for you, and they need to stop that, but don't gatekeep yourself. Second, it is wildly inappropriate to ask this question, because really what you're asking is, what's the current status of your genitals and the future of it? Like, that has nothing to do with you. Trust me, you will never see my genitals. It's such an odd question, but I also understand, like, where it's naturally coming out of. Like, I get why you're curious. But you also need to understand that it's none of your goddamn business. The choices I make about my body are between me and my partner. And my doctor, I guess, because they have to be involved. But, like, that's it. That's the complete list. That's it. Nobody else has any business knowing this. But it really just makes me feel like they're trying to say that I won't actually be a real woman until this is done. And that's just not okay. You don't get to decide what makes a real woman. The other thing that happened around this was that people would ask me for proof. They were like, I literally don't believe you. And I'm like, what do you want me to do? How do I prove to you that I'm a woman? Like, what criteria are you holding me with here? I'm a woman because a plethora of doctors and therapists have declared me to be so. If you must actually get technical with it, that's what it is. But the reason that they declared me so is because I told them I'm a woman. That's it. That's how it works. I am a woman, therefore I'm a woman. It's kind of a circular argument, but there it is. There's no chemical, there's no surgery that makes you more or less of a real woman. That's it. Don't tell people that they need to be on hormones to feel right. That's nonsense. For me, it was necessary, and I'm actually a little jealous of people who don't need that. But, like, you know, stop it. Especially within the trans community. Like, come on. We have enough problems from the cis. We need to, like, stay with each other here. We need to support each other. There's a way to have that conversation, and just coming out and saying, are you going to cut off your junk, is not the correct way in any universe. Something you should do when someone comes out as trans is to ask for their preferred name and pronouns. And then a don't do this thing is to tell them about a person you know who happens to share that name. We don't care. That's not interesting to us. It's just giving us a standard to hold ourselves to. Well, I guess I gotta hold myself up to the standard of your cousin. Like, what does it matter? It doesn't actually mean anything to us to be like, oh yeah, I have a cousin named Mia. Well, great, thank you for telling me it's a valid name. That's about the only response I can give here. There's no end to that discussion, and I get that it's kind of weird. We don't really have social rules in place to, like, handle someone telling you, this is the name I'd now prefer to be called, and if you call me anything other than that, I will be deeply hurt and offended. But I think you just need to say, oh, okay. And, like, it's even kind of weird to me that people say, like, oh, I really like that name. And I'm like, thanks, I picked it myself. What else is there to say? Like, that's my name. I'm stuck with it. Yeah, I'm gonna get a bunch of ABBA jokes for the rest of my life. I know that. And it's kind of a unique thing because, like, most adults do not get to choose their name. You're kind of stuck with the name that your parents chose for you. And, like, a lot of us end up using names that were, like, alternates that our parents had if we were assigned the other gender at birth. But some of us, like, don't want to preserve any aspect of their initial, like, assigned identity at all and choose a completely unrelated name. And all of those options are valid. And here's the thing, all you need to do is just accept that. Or don't and get out of our way. Like, that's it. Another reaction that I got that really kind of bothers me is people telling me I never would have guessed. And I'm like, okay, the reality is that that means you really just don't know me that well. Like, what else is there to say? Like, you would have never guessed. Well, it's a good thing you're not in charge of this. Like, all you're telling me by saying that is that, wow, you seem really a lot like the gender you really didn't want to be. Like, thanks, I know, that's the problem. You know, and like, I try to take it as a compliment on my acting abilities to like, try to fit into that box, but it's really just painful for me. It's really just like, I hear that and I say, wow, maybe I'm not trans, maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this, maybe this is a mistake. And that's really dangerous, you know, because it's already so confusing. Like, I can't even communicate to people who don't fully understand this, like, how confusing it is to feel like something you are not, and then have access to it all of a sudden, and it's so bizarre. But that is not the situation in which you want to sow doubt. Like, you want to support this person. This is a hard process. Don't sit there and be like, wow, I had no idea. That doesn't help. What are you doing right now? Are you trying to hurt? Because that's what you're doing. And like, I get that all of these are really natural reactions to have. Like, we don't really have social rules in place for this, like I said. But like, just a little sensitivity, just think. Especially since I came out to most people by text, like, you have a backspace button, please use it. I need it all day at my job. I don't know, I just feel like if you think for a second about what you're saying there, you'll realize that maybe it's something you shouldn't say. And that brings us to the final one, which is by far the most disturbing, and I was not even going to bring it up, except it happened multiple times. I cannot wrap my head around this one, it is so disturbing. I had a few, more than one individual, when I came out to them, tell me about their personal sexual fetishes. And it just kept coming. Like, the messages just kept ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. I'm like, what is happening right now? Why are you telling me this? And I said that. I was like, why do you think this is a thing that I want to talk about? And one of them in particular was so disturbing. They were like, oh, well, because you're trans, I can talk to you about this. Why? Being trans is not a fetish. It is not a thing we have in common. So, what are you doing right now? And like, I'm not a total prude, I don't mind talking about sex with people, I just don't understand how my gender identity has become a lead-in to a discussion about your sexual preferences. What are you talking about? And for God's sake, why are you talking to me about it? And like I said, the answer I got was because you're trans. And I'm like, that doesn't have anything to do with what you're talking about. It's worth saying, for those who are here looking to learn more, gender identity and sexual preference are separate things. There are some trans people who find that their sexual preferences shift a little bit if they do hormones and socially transition and things like that. For me, it actually allowed me to realize that, okay, I knew that I was attracted to men, but there was some reason that I didn't feel comfortable identifying as bisexual or ultimately pansexual, which is how I identify today. And through therapy, I realized that the problem was I didn't want to have sex with a man with male parts, and that was the hindrance. And I personally think it's actually a little strange that we define sexuality relative to one's gender identity. Now, I am out as a woman, and people tell me that I'm in a lesbian relationship, and I'm like, I mean, before you thought it was a straight relationship, but now because I am out, like, I've always been this woman, I've always been the same person, like, it's so weird to me. And it's not even technically a lesbian relationship because I'm pansexual, it's technically a queer relationship. Because a lesbian relationship implies two lesbians in a relationship with each other. And this gets into this whole issue of labeling. At the end of the day, labeling is meant to help people to identify with other people and be a shorthand. It should not be a straitjacket. Really, Mia? Straitjacket? That's the term we're going to use right now? Seriously? But seriously, like, it should not be a thing that boxes you in. We've been boxed in before and it didn't work. There's a spectrum of genders, there's a spectrum of sexualities. Anytime you apply a label, you are necessarily dividing up that spectrum artificially. It's just another form of gatekeeping. Be who you are, present how you want, love who you want, how you want. That is it. The labels do not matter. Just... Another reaction that I got, which was actually really more hurtful to me in a lot of ways than some of the other ones I've gotten so far, are people who say nothing, who just ghost me. And like, this happened on Facebook Messenger to one of my friends from high school, and like, I see that you have read the message. Okay, I know I was a bit of a prankster in high school, maybe you think I'm messing with you. I actually broke my own rule and sent proof. I sent a photo of my estrogen prescription with my birth name on it to you. And you saw that and still had nothing to say. And I'm like, I can't tell if like, this is you not having anything nice to say, so you're choosing to say nothing. I can't tell if you genuinely don't know how to react to this and you want to like figure that out. I don't know if you're like, why are you talking to me about this? What do you think it has to do with me? I don't know. Like, you didn't unfriend me, so I guess you don't totally hate me. And this gets into my larger theories about Facebook and all of that, because I'm like, you know, don't call it a friendship if you're not my friend. Like, if you are my friend and I come out to you as trans and expose myself in that way and am vulnerable with you and you have nothing to say, I don't think we're friends. And the final one that I want to talk about is people who use your old name. And like, it's always done in this really casual way. Like, this person accepts my new name, totally accepts my identity as a woman, is very supportive of me in every single way, but then she'll ask me something like, oh, does it really bother you when people call you birth name? And I'm just like, oh my god, you can't use that name anymore. I told you to stop using that name. And like, you're not calling me that name, you're not having other people address me with that name or using that name to refer to me in other contexts that I know of, and like, that's great, but I don't think you understand. I never want to hear that name about me ever again in any context. Like, there's a reason we call it a dead name. Like, it's dead to us. It's not me anymore. It has nothing to do with me, and frankly, your using it hurts me because it reminds me of the fact that I was assigned male at birth, that I will never quite fit in perfectly in any particular box. I don't exist fully where I belong. That's a lot to feel in 2 seconds. It just serves no purpose, and it just hurts. Like, just, if I tell you to never use that name again, never use it again. Ever. That's it. And then it just makes me feel like you're pretending that that's my, that that's not my name. Like, no, that is not my name. Legally, as of now, and I'm getting into updates now, that is not my name. Okay, I've done enough ranting for this video, so I think I'm gonna get into updates about my transition. So since I filmed my coming out video, I've actually found out that I was overdosing on estrogen. I got my levels back, and you can't actually, well, you can overdose on estrogen. That's not precisely the accurate way to think of it, but the dosage of estrogen that I was receiving was causing my prolactin to be high enough to be problematic. So it turns out that if you have too much prolactin for too long, you end up with a pituitary tumor. And honestly, a brain tumor right now just seems really inconvenient for me, so I guess I'm gonna have to pull back on the estrogen. Which, by the way, feels great. There's a whole psychology in that where I'm like, oh, sure, let me just put less estrogen, the thing I've been desperately wanting and really clinging to since I've got it. Let me just do less of that. That will feel great. Especially since I'm taking it bi-weekly. So every 2 weeks it tapers down, and I start to feel like crap. It's not like I feel like testosterone is coming back, because that's not really even what happens. It's like I just feel tired, and frankly, it's like PMS. It's the same kind of symptoms. I'm just sore and tired and grumpy, and I don't have patience anymore, and I want all the food, and I want to touch all the soft things, and like, yeah, that sounds a little sexist, but honestly, that's how I feel, that's my experience. You know, it's wrought havoc on my relationship, having a 2-week cycle of just up and down and up and down, and it's a problem, and I'm working on it. You know, it's like, here's the thing. Most people my age are used to dealing with this problem. They have had a lot of experience with it. This is new for me. I started estrogen 4 months ago, and I do not know how to handle my hormones quite yet. And as I said, like, I'm getting used to it, and I just changed the estrogen level. Like, I just lowered it. This is all new, all over again. Since that time, I've also added progesterone into the mix, and that has had some very interesting effects that will get this video fully demonetized if it is not already. Which makes it sound worse than it actually is, so maybe I should just talk about it. So the primary reason that trans women add progesterone into the mix is to enhance chest growth. And I would say that that has happened. But the other effect that it has is that it's also a testosterone blocker, so that's good. I might need less of my peeing pill, which would be fantastic. And actually, my endocrinologist said that I could pull back from the dosage that I'm having of that right now. I just didn't feel like changing all 3 kinds of hormones all in one go for the next 3 months. So leaving that alone, because I can leave that alone. I have to pull back on the estrogen a little bit, and I added progesterone. Let's see how that goes, and then we'll revisit that issue when I get my levels checked next. So yeah, adding progesterone into the mix has made things interesting as well. It also contributes to that feeling of PMS, which is interesting. Especially if you're my partner, and I apologize to you, Amanda. I know you are having a hell of a time with this, and I'm not making it easy for you, but I promise you I am trying to get used to it. Oh, that's another one that I got a lot of questions about. Are you staying with your partner? And I'm like, yes? I think I would have led with that. Oh my gosh, my partner broke up with me because I'm trans. I mean, one of those is a bigger issue, I'm not sure which. And I got that question a lot, and I'm like, okay, well, I kind of get where you're coming from with this, but the way you're asking it implies that she should not want to stay with me, and I'm like, I mean, I'm kind of awesome. But no, I understand. Having a trans partner is a lot, you know? I've really dragged her through it the last few months, and like, I get it, it's a lot, but like, I think I would have told you that. The other thing that I've done since that video is I started my laser hair removal on my facial hair. And good God, you would not believe the pain. I've been through some pretty serious abuse. I know pain. This is crazy. The good news is that almost immediately you feel better. Like right after that, like by the time you get back to your car, you feel fine. But as it's happening, it is horrible. It sort of feels like an epilator, which is basically like a pair of tweezers that pulls out multiple hairs in like a section at a time. But it's way more intense, it's way faster, it's just, whew. I had to take breaks. I'm just surprised that I didn't swear at my technician and I didn't cry, but I did have to close my eyes, and I actually reached a point where my anxiety was like, we are being attacked, and I was like, oh, no, you will be quiet. We are fine. We need this. We are getting through this, and we will walk out of here and be fine. So you need to be quiet and let this happen. I just sort of like had to close my eyes and just kind of meditate, and next time I am bringing a stuffed animal with me because good God, that was intense. They say that the face is the worst, and the first session is even worse than normal because you have a lot of hair there and it's gonna take a lot of work. And okay, yep, that doesn't help. I mean, it tells you it won't be as bad next time, but it's still bad now. Like, it's really, really intense, and I was not expecting that, and whew. But for me, it's worth it, because I get to never have to shave my face again, which is a constant struggle. I have to shave my face every day. And it's just this intense source of dysphoria for me. It makes me remember the fact that I have to deal with this. And it's sort of interesting because there's basically 2 kinds of hair on your body. There's the kind that once it's activated, like your head hair, your eyebrows, your facial hair, it stays with you forever. And then there's another kind which is basically driven by testosterone, and that requires a continuous stream of testosterone in order to grow. Of course, facial hair is in the former category, and you have to remove it the hard way, or it will never go away on its own. Things like body hair, back hair, some of the stereotypically masculine areas of the body that get hair, those areas might get better. I know plenty of cis women, and I know just from biology that cis women have hair in places that aren't considered feminine, and that's something that I have to accept because, like, it's very hard for me as a trans person to be like, oh yeah, that's probably hair that I would have if I was cis. I can't ever know that. I'm of course going to blame my body doing the wrong thing for that hair existing. We constantly have to fight to accept ourselves as we are today because it's a long, long process. Like, this is basically the rest of my life. The actual, like, transition phase of this takes, they say, like, 5 years. And I'm like, okay, but, like, this is a forever thing. Anyway, I think that's basically it on updates. I've been legally updating my name. That's been a thing. I went to a judge. And actually what drove me to do that, I got a call from my doctor's office because I needed to refill my needles so that I can continue injecting myself full of less estrogen. And there was this whole thing where they couldn't get 1-inch needles, so now I have 1.5-inch needles that I'm supposed to put in, like, try to aim for 1 inch deep, and I'm like, this whole process is annoying. But anyway, so my doctor's office, my endocrinologist's office, had been really kind of aggressive about using my preferred name up till this point, and because it was my insurance and the pharmacy, they called me by my legal name. And I couldn't anymore. Like, I had come out at work and been full-time for 3 weeks, and I was like, I am not going to deal with this anymore. I am sick of going to the pharmacy and having to give that name. I am sick of having to deal with that through my insurance and everything, and it's just a pain. It's not my name. It's not my name anymore. So I spontaneously took a day off from work and went to the courthouse, filed the application, and I did not realize that I'd be seeing a judge that day. Fortunately, I dressed up for it. But, like, it didn't even occur to me how badass it was of me to, like, walk into a courthouse in a dress. I'm like, wait a minute, some people in that room are going to perceive me as male. And, in a dress, which is not the look I'm going for. But, like, it went great. Everyone there was super fantastic. But yeah, so they signed the court order, and there's this BS rule in the US, or at least this county, I don't know how broad this problem is, where you're required, unless you fill out some sort of, like, request for a waiver, which I didn't find and I don't know how to do because I'm not a lawyer, to request to not have to publish your name change in a newspaper. And I'm like, what is this? It's like this antiquated, like, oh, it's a matter of public record, and if, your debtors need to find you and all this. And I'm like, who's looking through that section of every newspaper all the time? Like, what? I mean, basically what they're asking me to do is to announce to my town, hey everyone, I'm trans! Hope none of you had a problem with that! And it's, like, legitimately dangerous. Like, we get killed. Like, trans people get killed all the time. And it's like, you want me to just, like, and I couldn't even make a reasonable argument about it because, like, I'm making a coming out video. My transition is going to be very public. Like, it just creates a new list of people that I have to, like, tell everyone, hi everyone, I'm the trans person, can you pity me for a little bit? And it sucks, because I'm the sort of person who likes taking care of herself, and, like, I really don't like having to ask anyone to do anything, especially to pay for anything. And that's the other thing, like, you need to give a copy of your birth certificate to the county clerk. Guess where you get the birth certificate from? The same county clerk. Like, just go down the hall. You have my birth certificate. I was literally born in this town. Just go look. Anyway, so my name change is in process, and that's basically all that's left. Like, it's laser, it's getting my hormones checked continuously, and that's going to be an ongoing thing pretty much for the rest of my life. That's basically it. Like, legally changing my name and all of that is really the last step in my transition, unless I'm going to consider bottom surgery, which I haven't actually decided on because the insurance company won't let you decide about it for a year. Which is actually normally the answer that I give to people if they ask me in a sensitive way what my plans are for my genitals. I'm like, I actually can't decide this for a year so it doesn't actually matter what I want right now anyway. The thing is, though, that there's so much lead time trying to get with a surgeon to do bottom surgery that, like, you really do actually have to plan it at least 6 months ahead of when you'd be able to do it. And the other thing is that you have to do hair removal on that region. And that's where I said to the laser technician, they were like, oh, the face is the worst of the worst. And I'm like, I'll let you know, actually. But like, that takes a good 6 sessions every 6 weeks, so it takes a good 8 to 10 months to actually do the hair removal, and it has to be perfect. Like, the face, I could live with like a few stray, like, clear or white hairs, whatever, sure, fine, that's not the end of the world. But like, a place where you're gonna get that kind of surgery for the reasons that you actually need to do the hair removal, it needs to be perfect. And like, it's going to take so long to actually be able to do this surgery, if I even choose to do it, that I don't even really know how soon I need to be thinking about it. Like, my gender therapist told me to start thinking about it before I even started hormones. And I'm like, that's really soon. Yeah, I think that's about as much as I want to talk about that today, and I'll probably end up cutting out most of it. I guess the only thing to really say is that my transition is progressing really, really well. Being fully out is awesome. I'm full-time. I don't actually own any more boy clothes, so I pretty much have to present female at all times. Plus, I'm not really getting much of a choice at this point. You know, it's really great. I've had no negative reactions, save for some awkwardness with people when I announced that I was trans. And all of those people were great, by the way. I should really say that. Like, aside from the person who never responded to me, like, the people that were asking me all those awkward questions, you know, once I explained to them why that was inappropriate to ask and why I felt uncomfortable with that and why they should never ask those questions to another trans person ever, like, yeah, you know, they came around. And I find that most of the problems we encounter as trans people are matters of ignorance. People are just not used to dealing with us. They don't know how to talk to us about these things, because for us this is a very big thing and we want to be accepted, and it does take a little pity on other people's parts for us to be able to do that. Like, especially when you're passing not so great, like, and again, passing culture is really toxic, but like, if someone looks objectively masculine and they tell you, I'm a woman, please refer to me as a woman, that is really hard for some people, because our brains literally reward us for correctly identifying someone's gender, and all we have to go on is visual. And it's rough. You know, misgendering hurts the whole time it's happening. And we come back to this issue of confidence. Because if I confidently walk in somewhere, in a dress especially, and like, tell them I'm a woman, my name is Mia, I rarely get questioned. And, you know, if anyone gets onto you for not being feminine enough, they're being a freaking jerk. I am a woman, this is my voice. I am a woman, these are my shoulders. Everything I do is what a woman would do because I am a woman. And it's sort of this thing where I'm like sort of gatekeeping myself. Like, at what point do I begin to accept myself as a woman? Like, if anyone looked at my hormones right now in my blood as they exist today, even at the low phase of my estrogen, they would come up and say, oh, this person is female. There's just no question. Like, I am running on female hormones. I have been for some time. I have the parts that one would typically associate with a woman in some areas, and like, at what point do I accept myself? Because that's really where acceptance begins. And it's really hard for a lot of us because we're so used to dealing with this discomfort and this feeling wrong with our bodies. We have to accept ourselves as we are today, at the point we are currently at in our transition, if we are ever going to expect anyone around us to accept us for who we really are. I know I said I have a long way to go. What does that mean? I have a lot to learn. I haven't quite mastered eyeshadow. And don't even get me started on lips. I go with a color that blends well with my natural color so you don't notice when I'm terrible at it, because I am terrible at it. But self-love, self-acceptance is so important in this process, and it enables you to present in a way that other people find plausible. Like, nobody questions you if you confidently walk into a ladies' room and use a stall. If they do, they were going to attack you for something anyway. Like, here's the thing. There's a broad spectrum of people in the world. Gender really is a spectrum, and you belong somewhere on that spectrum. But the point is, you belong. You are valid. However you exist today is valid. You don't always have to be waiting for your life to get better. You don't always have to wait for some moment in your life where you wake up and say, oh, I finally look like a woman. And you know, the thing is that, like, my face is changing. I'm sure you can see it. Scroll down on this channel. Ignore the facial hair. But, like, my face is changing. And every day I look at my face and I go, that looks different than it did the day before. And because I am on this transition journey, I know that I am looking more feminine because my body is responding to female hormones, but like, those things don't make me a woman. If that never happened, I'd still be a woman. If I never got more feminine looking than I am today, I would still be a woman. This transition is not over, but at a certain point, I do need to accept myself as I exist today. And that's liberating because it puts so much less pressure on you to perform this way, and it's like, it's really just trading one box for the other. Before, I thought I was male, so I had to do these things and like these things and blend in with these kinds of people. But now, I'm a woman, and now I have to shave my legs and all of these things, and like, I'm literally planning on shaving my legs today so that I can go to work tomorrow in a skirt and not get weird looks from people like, wow, this girl hasn't figured out that she's supposed to shave her legs. Well, actually, you haven't figured out that women grow hair on their legs. It's not because I was assigned male at birth that I have hair on my legs. That's a place where bodies grow hair. It doesn't make me less of a woman to not shave my legs. It does make me happy to shave my legs because I happen to like how it looks. It's something I'm doing for myself. It's not to protect myself from people who want to judge me based on their standards for how a woman is supposed to exist. That's just BS. And that's where being a feminist long-term prior to this actually helps me a heck of a lot, because I fully support a woman who wants to go out there and never shave her arms and never shave her legs. That is a woman. That is a valid way to live your life. Who the hell decided that we were supposed to live like this? You shave your legs if you want to shave your legs. Nobody should be telling you you have to shave your legs. But I'm going to, because I want to, because it makes me feel good about myself. That's it. That's all I care about. And that's why ultimately I decided to transition, because I realized that I wanted to feel comfortable with my body when I wake up in the morning. I wanted to feel like things were the way that they were supposed to be, and they weren't getting there the way that my body was naturally progressing. So yeah, this is a struggle. Like, it's not easy to go through all of this. Having a second puberty is not fun. I'm not having a great time, but like, finally, I'm having the puberty that I was supposed to, and that's exciting to me. I'm so happy all the time, and it just comes through in so many areas of my life. I've been able to get so much work done. I'm just being free and being out and being myself and not having to try to fit somewhere I knew I didn't belong. And like, all of those things just, they drain you so much. And I know that sooner or later the euphoria of being myself finally is going to wear off, and this is just going to be my life. I'm going to live my life as a woman, and well, that's not exactly the most fun ride in the world either, but like, it's going to just be my life. It's not going to be my transition. It's not going to be I'm a trans person. It's going to be, yeah, I've got to go to the store. Like, now it's a production. I have to cover up my facial hair because I have no choice since I got rid of all my boy clothes but to present female. So, yeah, you know, at a certain point you settle into your existence as a real, valid person, a complete person, and like it becomes less about your transition and less about the fact that you were assigned male at birth. But right now, oh my god, it feels great. I feel so good, and it's like still fresh for me. It was not long ago that I felt terrible all the time. And I didn't know that it was necessarily terrible. I didn't like, it was just how I lived my life. It was just, I had to go to the store. But I hated it. Now I go to the store and I'm saying, wow, I'm out here in gender-affirming clothing. I'm out here with makeup on and everyone accepts me. And people don't raise an eyebrow when I tell them my name is Mia. And people don't question it when my partner says, oh yeah, she's gotta, you know, find the coupon or whatever. Like, people just accept this. And I can't even begin to describe to someone who hasn't lived through that what that feels like. You know? Like, the closest thing I can think of is to have them go through a day where everyone does the opposite. And I would never expose someone to that kind of gender dysphoria. It's horrible, it's awful, it's torture. But like, that's about the only way that I can describe it to someone, is that if you went everywhere and someone used the wrong pronouns and the wrong name that corresponds to a different gender other than who you are, that would hurt you a lot. And it's an experience that a lot of people actually do have. People who are on different points of that gender spectrum often have to overcompensate to be accepted as their actual gender. Like, there's a reason that parents put like pink and blue bows on their new babies, because it hurts them to see their child misgendered. Like, come on, this matters. It shouldn't matter because society should be better, but it does matter. It hurts. It hurts a lot to be not seen as your true self. And the relief of finally being out and being my true self and being perceived that way and accepted that way by people is just indescribable. Yeah, so that's it. I'm out, I'm free, I'm happy. And that is all for this video. It's a lot, and I'm going to be really mad at myself because I have over an hour of footage to cut down into something that's actually digestible. I can't imagine that I'm going to get it down to less than 40 minutes, and I can't imagine that that's going to be interesting for people, but yeah, well, when I started this channel, Interesting Things Weekly, I didn't think I'd become the interesting thing. But that's why I'm going to keep this to one video a month, and that's why they're going to be a little longer, but for people that actually want to keep track of my transition, I think it might actually be the easiest way. I'll be back again next week with another video that I hope you will find interesting. Not about my transition, but I will still be me in that video. So, yeah, until then, stay curious.